This is on the front page of the Times. Labour law threatens customers' free speech. Unbelievably, pubs could ban customers from speaking about contentious matters such as religious beliefs or transgender rights over fears of falling foul of Labour's workers' rights reforms. This is in case the bartender or a waitress or somebody overhears something that you've said which upsets them.
There is no time to be frivolous over this story.
No.
Okay?
Right.
This is really very
proper scary.
Serious.
Yeah.
For me, the most pernicious part of this government is that the messaging, everything they've said, has been very deliberate in regards to, without bringing in the legislation, shutting down opposition speech.
Yes.
Free speech. We've heard it all.
Right.
If you express a view that is not towing the Labour left party line, then you are immediately branded as being far right.
Right.
No matter what it is you say.
Yeah.
And so many millions of people who are fundamentally not of the far right, whose politics may be right of centre, who may like free speech, common sense and the such like, are suddenly branded by this pernicious government and its appalling Prime Minister as being far right. And they've convinced people, this government have convinced people, in fact, they've frightened people into thinking that free speech is long gone.
Well, people are frightened because I already see people's reaction on social media, and we had a bunch of calls yesterday from people who have had visits from His Majesty's Constabulary, shall we say, because of words that they've written either on social media or letters or emails that they've written to MPs, and suddenly they've had plod round to say, excuse me, what did you mean by this?
Yeah, well, what many people that I've spoken to think is that kind of new laws have been brought in about free speech from this government, and as yet they have not.
Right.
But the messaging from this government is terrifying people into thinking that free speech is becoming a thing of yesteryear.
Yes.
Now, talking of legislation, this is where it gets potentially scary.
Yes.
Because Labour's workers' rights reforms, which they're looking to bring in through new legislation, is going to be very protective of workers' rights in regards to basically being offended.
Yes.
So, what the concerns are of this law, and the example used here is, say, for example, somebody is a bartender or a waiter in a restaurant, and so they serve people at tables or they serve people that would be gathered around at a bar having a chat.
Yes.
This law is going to say that these workers need to be protected from hearing something that they might not like.
Which was not intended for them to hear.
Yes.
Because it's a conversation being had by people who happen to be in a place of hospitality, shall we say, and the person working there is going to be overhearing what they're saying.
Correct.
It's not going to be aimed at them, but yet they could be upset by it, and if they're not protected from that, that they could then sue the owner of the premises.
Yes, for not protecting them. So, for example, you and me going for a bit of lunch.
Right.
Yeah, and we're sitting down, and we're righting the wrongs of the world as we see it.
As we see it.
And a waiter overhears us, gets deeply offended by what they hear us saying, and then their employer could be in the shtuck.
Yeah, absolutely right.
It's
Funnily enough,
so
this happened to
Orwellian.
me a couple of years ago. I was in a bar around here somewhere, and nothing particularly, sensational was going on. And I was having a conversation with a couple of mates who were there. We were talking business, we were talking this, that, and the other. And I can't even remember what was said, but somebody said something which was vaguely amusing. And this guy who was going around collecting glasses said something like, "I wouldn't say that if I were you." To which I told him to F off. I was like, "It's nothing to do with you. It's none of your business. Get lost. Get back behind the bar." And that was the end of that. But under this new scenario, presumably I'd be dragged out in handcuffs.
Well,
for not protecting him from hearing it.
They haven't brought these laws in yet, but these are what are under consideration.
Incredible. The only good part of this story is that the Equality and Human Rights Commission, apparently, which is the EHRC, not to be confused with the ECHR, hard to get those two confused, basically saying that this will be particularly challenging because in philosophical beliefs such as people's views on religion or women's rights are complicated, and they also need to be protected. So my rights for freedom of speech need to be protected at the same time as their rights not to be offended.
That is the key expression, a philosophical belief.
Yeah.
So if we are having that lunch, sitting down there and righting the wrongs of the world in regards to whatever it may be that we're discussing. Faith, for example.
Yeah.
Migration. Anything that we choose to discuss.
Football.
Yeah. If it is a philosophical belief that we hold, and this will apply to sex, gender, all that kind of stuff. You know, so we've got to keep a very, very close eye on what this government tries to do with this legislation.
It's hard to believe that people actually willingly elected this crowd of absolute clowns, right? Because not only are they clowns, but they want to try and control every aspect of your life. They want to tell you what you can throw away, which bin you have to put things in that you want to throw away, how far you can walk, how far you can drive, how far you can cycle, where you can cycle, what you can say when you're down the pub, what you can say when you're in the office, what you can say on social media. I mean, is there anything they don't want to control?
I actually have a degree of sympathy for some people who I think may be in part responsible for your growing audience figures.
Yes.
Because they may, last summer, have misguidedly, in their desperation to get rid of a massively failing Tory government, have voted Labour.
Yes.
They might not have thought it through very well. They might not have been aware exactly what a Labour government would look like, sound like, and what it would try to do. And I think it is now, and only now, that we are seeing, with the tumbling Labour figures in the polls, right? Their ratings are tumbling. That those people, I think, who voted for them last summer are now beginning to regret that and thinking about, well, what am I going to do next time? Who shall I vote for to get them out? And if those people are coming over to this station, for example, and listening and learning from their mistakes, then I think they need to be welcomed and they need to be understood. And we need to think, OK, they're reassessing the situation.
They are, absolutely. Everybody's welcome to listen to this, even if you don't like it. I mean, I'm very happy for people to listen to it and not like it and call me all sorts of names under the sun. I'm not going to report them to anyone.